Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have some... I dropped my phone. Today we have some original content for you guys because there still hasn't been a ban list yet. And if there has, yay. No format.
Could there be?
Could there be? I don't know, this is a Saturday video, so there will not be a ban list. And today we're going to talk, as you have seen in the title already, I'm going to argue that the pendulum mechanic and the ritual mechanic are arguably the same, or at least that's how they play out in the game. Before we go into this discussion, next week, Saturday and Sunday, I will be playing at the Remote Invitational on the official Konami page, so be sure to go and check that out. It will be at the European times. And my name is Marijn van Duivenboot, so come check me out, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to play the best deck Subterror. I'm not sure if I have to say if that's a lie or not.
Hidden City F.
Hidden City F. And the last thing that I want to say to you guys before we go into the discussion is, did you check out your playmat yet? Your playmat has sponsored me this beautiful playmat featuring all the art of the cards that I love. And I have a code in the description, a website that you can use, and I have a code as well for 10% off your purchase. And they are an awesome website. They have really high quality stuff because this is beautiful, right?
It's really cool.
He gets paid to say that, just like me.
100%.
But honestly, those guys are great. They have custom sleeves too, custom playmats. You can send your own designs for everything, and they will hook you up with some of the best stuff out there. They're awesome. Go check them out. All right. So before we go all in, I have to kind of explain where this theory comes from. So I was thinking back and discussing it with my friends a little bit about the generic themes of the pendulum decks and the ritual decks that we've seen. So this theory is going to be that we're going to be discussing is about the ritual decks and the pendulum decks that we have seen over the years that have seen competitive play. Because this theory falls completely flat when you talk about like
Blue Eyes, Chaos Max,
Dino Mist, let's go best deck. So there are two things connecting the two, in my opinion, where I was like, this is basically roughly the same. I know the two mechanics are very different. It's very different to Pendulum Summon 5 or to Ritual Summon a monster with a ritual spell. But the generic theme that both decks have is that they get an unusual and broken amount of resources through just playing the deck. So of course, it makes sense, because if you do a ritual summon, you need to have the ritual spell, the ritual monster, and a card to tribute, which are 3 cards that go into 1. So that's -2 already, so that's god awful.
So you need like a deck to be around that.
Exactly, and if you do a pendulum summon, you need to have skill, so technically it's not -2 because you still have the cards, but you are still losing 2 cards from your hand. So the two mechanics both have like the same feature where they need to create card advantage. Now we know that basically all decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Have to create card advantage. Look at a deck like Emancipator, which is also a deck that mills cards and gets more cards, and Burning Abyss does it as well, like get as much resource as you can through like meanings of the deck. But there's a big difference between like what ritual decks and obviously pendulum decks do versus a deck like Burning Abyss, because there are times where a pendulum player in the past has had like 8 cards in hand and 2 skills on field just by going plus with spell counter, etc. Just playing the deck. Yeah. Same with the Megalith and Drytron decks right now, because if you open like Nova Benten, you are gonna go like +4, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty like even more probably, but it's like, I think the main thing is that the decks are like bad at all times, then they print support and the deck becomes insanely good, and then it becomes bad again. Like we saw it with Pendulum like 5 times already.
Yeah.
Like right now there's pretty much no Pendulum around.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're gonna like print 2 or 3 broken cards again sometime, and then Pendulum's gonna be like tier 1 again.
Exactly.
Insane.
And to start things off, we're gonna go back with the first mechanic that was featured. I'm not gonna talk about Gishki because I didn't play, but I was playing when Necros was a thing. And of course Necros was a hyper consistent ritual deck. But what many people forget is that like the resource game for the deck was like really strong, because you had both Unicorn that could add cards back, but each ritual spell in the graveyard could banish itself, of course if you had no monsters, to get another ritual spell from your deck. So you had like the turn 3 had like near infinite resources, and you could just go like +3 after your opponent tried to play through your field. Together with cards like Valkyrus and even the normal effect Necros monsters that got effects when you tributed them. Like a Necros of Valkyrus could let you go +2 by itself, which already was quite insane. And all these cards, they kept facilitating like insane amounts of pluses. And of course that is necessary, but if you look at other decks of the same time that were played, Satellite Deneb on normal summon he adds a Satellite. That's all the plus you're going to get. Of course in the opponent's turn you can do it again with Call of the Haunted, but that's about it. If you look at a deck like Necros, where you can just tribute 2 monsters, including the Valkyrus, draw 2, get 2 ritual spells back. It's kind of a huge difference, like in 2016 already. It was kind of insane.
I mean, I didn't play back then, but it's like, just like looking at past like tournaments and stuff, just looking at the Necros deck list and then comparing it to what else was played. Like Necros is still a deck that, of course, with like the support that it has gotten and like the cards that come back from the ban list, it's still a deck that you could play to a local tournament. You could probably do well with, and like Satellite is nowhere to be found. And
exactly.
Like all of those other decks from that format are like nowhere. Like the ritual decks just keep coming back because they're every wave of support they get is gonna be broken or is gonna be really good.
Like they got the incantations, now they have the
Those
Drytrons.
cards are insane. Incantations.
Yeah, we'll come over it. So in the same format, a couple of weeks later, we got introduced to Wavering Ice, which basically was the changing point for the Pendulum mechanic. Clifford is, in my opinion, a failed Pendulum deck because it really doesn't work like it should. I'm gonna make a video maybe about it. If you're interested to see my opinion about Clifford and why Pendulum was failed at its introduction, be sure to leave a comment down below. But when Wavering Ice arrived, it was kind of the first time that a ritual deck or a Pendulum deck was gonna go for the most like card advantage it could get. It was playing Into the Void, it was playing the Reculate, it was going to like Turbo Towers and use Scout as much times as possible, and there wasn't really a strategy anymore. It was just like drawing cards. And after Upper Clifford Towers got banned and Scout went to 1 or 0, the deck was dead. So skip a little while later and we got introduced to the Draco Pals. And the Draco Pals was kind of the first, in my opinion, Pendulum deck that actually pendulums, because I don't agree with Clifford's they're not a Pendulum deck. They're a tribute deck that has Monster Reborn every turn. But the Draco Pals introduced the big problems that we are still seeing. Pendulum Sorcerer and of course Lizard Draw and Guitartle, which is my favorite card, and Luster Pendulum were all cards that like destroyed something else, other Pendulum skills, searched other cards, and then they could just be summoned again. Which kind of introduced like, this advantage is going to be insane. Then we quickly entered the Pepe format, which you gladly missed. But we had triple Monkey Board, which was a 1 card skill, which was a +1. And we had Scrubrat Joker, which was a +1. We had Bumbunku, which was a +1. We had Kirin that came back every turn. The power level of this deck was so bad that it was a tier 0 deck and it needed an emergency ban list. And even with an emergency ban list, the deck was still very much broken because the card advantage that it gained was so much different than other things from the deck. With like Monarchs, Monarchs went plus quite a bit with the Kuras and the Burnt Fusion engine, but a deck like Cosmo, that could not go, like, if that went plus, normal summon Tinkan Demise, that was basically like how you kept up with like any other decks and tried to stop them. So we are kind of seeing like a generic theme that when the deck arrived, it was already like instantly tier 1, which is like very much different than like a deck like BA that needs like solving or shuttles that evolves over the years. But a deck like Pepe that was like broken from the get-go, of course we knew what we were getting into. But skipping ahead now, a little bit faster, Triple Electromite was a format where people turboed out Triple Electromite because the card advantage you gained from Astrograph Sorcerer, which is like, oh my god, like compare Astrograph Sorcerer to like a card from the same era.
I didn't play back then, I have no idea.
I have no idea too. But like compare Astrograph Sorcerer to like a card like Double Helix, where Double Helix already was broken, but he facilitated the master plan. But you know, you had to do some form of setup, as easy as it was. But like Astrograph, just destroy a card on your field, which you do through Electromite. And you also draw, and you also plus, and you also summon, and you also skip ahead to Ritual. We are back in a Ritual format. Even though this deck doesn't top, Drytron is arguably the second best deck, if not the first.
I actually think Drytron is the best deck. I just really think that, I think we already discussed this earlier, like most of the people that own Drytron cards probably also have Virtual cards. Like same for me. I own Drytron, I own Virtual World, I just like playing Drytron, so I play it. But if I would go to a big event, I would still pick up Virtual World because it's just the most consistent VFD turbo deck. Just better. But like Drytron is a little bit more expensive. It's like a lot of factors that I think that if you're going to choose a consistent combo deck to play in a tournament, you're going to play Virtual World. 100%. And it just, I think for that reason, it's not being shown, but it's like it's probably the best deck of format.
The deck is super well. Of course, I'm kind of biased because I'm playing against you and you were playing this deck a lot. And now, basically, if you go first, it's near impossible for me to win unless I have a specific combination of cards. And the reason why it's not played is because
50.
Draw Lockbird and VFD, of course, but also Draw Lockbird. Every time a Ritual deck was meta or a Pendulum deck, Draw Lockbird was insane. And everyone always says that, you know, that the meta is fucked when Draw Lockbird is in the main deck. And this was, of course, when Spiral was a thing, but this was every time that Pendulum was a thing, Draw Lockbird was in the main deck. Because the deck created so much advantage, and even in Necros format, there were a lot of people playing Draw Lockbird because Necros just went plus too hard. And this is a continuous, like, thing throughout the years where Ritual decks and Pendulum decks both have the same issue. They have like a summon mechanic that goes minus, so to counter that we have to go plus. And this results in the most broken cards printed. Endymion Servant is broken, Master of Endymion is broken, Pendulum Sorcerer is broken. There's a
Spellpower Mastery.
Spellpower Mastery is broken, Electromite is broken, but look at it the other way around. The Drytrons are insane in link climbing in a deck that goes minus, which is like super weird. They are like the most advantage giving archetype I've ever seen, I think. Of course, this does get facilitated by Benton. Benton is also a huge part of the problem. But the Drytrons, the incantations are the most insane cards ever.
I still like every time, like of course you don't really see decks that play incantations. I've owned the real, I think 2 decks that play them in like since I've played the game. It's like you had Incantation Megalith, which just went plus. Like I remember playing against Dion and he had like literally 20 cards in hand. Literally 20, and it's like just Megalith and Incantation that facilitate that. And the Necros deck that played like Vanity Ruler. That's also like, because of the Incantation you can like go plus 1,000. And it just makes no sense. It's just those cards are so good.
Keep giving both Pendulum and Ritual tools that make them hyper consistent. And you can say whatever you want, but XYZ/Synchro decks, like even with Hulk, like those decks were never like so broken. The only thing that I can really compare it with was what we were talking about earlier today, was Synchron Elklich. But that facilitated Hulk in the draw engine, and that was kind of wild. Like every Synchro problem was, every time Synchro was a problem, it was because of TGI library. But there hasn't been like, then you have like Luna Lights, which might be the equivalent for XYZs.
Yeah, but Luna Light, like it's still the same thing because Tiger is a Pendulum card.
Oh,
like no, like it's the thing with Luna Light is like it's not even that Tiger is a Pendulum. It's just you have a non-once per turn card that you can bounce multiple times, which just made it broken. And it's like for the XCs, of course, it's like probably the best option. And yeah, I think Synchro would be Synchro Elklich. That's
it kind of makes you wonder when there will be generic fusion support.
Fallen of Albas still has a...
Alistair needs support. No, but the kind of point I was making is there are so many broken, like there's a fucking ritual support card that adds a ritual spell and the monster. And that's not being played right now because it's not good enough. That's wow. That's like the Fright for the Frightwork patchwork, like amount of broken, like that's like +1, but the cards are the cards that you specifically want. Like it's so insane that these decks flying there, like a deck like Herald, a deck like Megalith, they are so broken. And then even like when you give, there was a huge surge in Dynamist players when they got the trap that just activated the 2 skills because it was a +2. Like these are things that keep recurring. They keep giving these mechanics tools to go plus, and it always goes wrong.
But if you even look at in the future, like let's say Ben 10 doesn't get hit, and we get imports, you have the Diviner of Heralds, which allows Drytron to play Beatrice to send Eva both on your first turn and on your opponent's turn. That's like actually insane.
I'm looking forward to this.
You're getting the Xyz, which ritual summons with materials.
The Xyz.
Plus it's Foolish Burial for Drytrons. Plus it's a negate. It's like, then you have like that side. Pendulum, I don't, probably like 15 more cards. There's like the new archetype, I think.
Doremicus.
Yeah, something like that. Which like activates, like you cannot respond to pendulum summons, you can activate skills from anywhere. It's like
they need it because
I think
the mechanics suck, but
I think there's only been one fair pendulum deck since I've played the game, and that was Mythical Beast Endymion, and that wasn't even really fair, it just didn't really do much.
Yeah,
I think there was one Vladis, he topped with it in Milan, and after that a couple of players picked it up, myself included. And it didn't feel unfair, it just felt like a really good consistent pendulum strategy. And yeah, after that Electromite got hit like 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
And since then like it hasn't really done much.
Either ritual / pendulum decks are broken or they suck. Like that's kind of the conclusion that we can draw here. Like either they are tier 1/0 and no other deck can compete unless they play quote-unquote cancerous cards like VFD Droll Lockbird for both mechanics, weirdly, or they just suck. Look at Ignite.
Yo, Ignite's broken, dude. Infernoble Ignite, best deck, 60 cards. Let's go, baby.
Look at Ignite, look at Dynamist, look at Old Eyes, which also has insane cards that search in the end. Look at ritual decks like Chaos Max. That card can just kill you, but it's not good enough, of course. But what other ritual decks are there? Shino Birds.
Yo, if Yada comes back.
If Yada comes back.
Whoa, Shino Birds.
When Yada comes back. But yeah, that was kind of the train of thought that I had, where I was like roughly comparing the two. Do you agree with the statement? Do you think that both summon mechanics are like a little bit too much alike, or do you just think that like the summon mechanics, how they work, make them so much different that you cannot really compare them? Because in my opinion, a board filled with like 2 Drytrons, a Manju, and 2 ritual monsters, it's roughly the same as like 5 pendulum monsters, or 6 now that we have the new master rule. And yeah, this really makes me wonder where the future design space goes, because of course Double Iris has just been released from the ban list, and yeah, if Electromite comes back, it's going to be a problem, because the Time and Star Pendulum Graphs are... Do you know what they do? That trap card?
Never played. I played them, I think, but
I'm gonna explain them to him because I thought it's really fair. And yeah, it makes you wonder. Like Necros is full power right now, but it just doesn't do anything. That makes you wonder when like the breakpoint will be, because these are decks that are still really good. Necros still is like so much.
But I mean, like Necros is like a worse version of Drytron right now, and it also dies extremely hard to draw.
Which is also being mained.
It would be like the most dumb decision to play Necros.
Why do all ritual decks die to Called by the Grave?
Because all ritual decks use Ben 10.
Brio?
Broken.
Let me know in the comment section if you agreed, and again be sure to check out yourplaymat.com, links in the description, together with a 10% off purchase code. And be sure to go to Suffer Whitejoe's live stream on twitch.tv/SufferWhiteJoe, where he and I regularly chill and play games like Netherlands versus Belgium. And yeah,
toxic remote duels.
Toxic remote duels with Suffer. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye
Ciao,
guys!
ciao.